Rain was coming down hard that Tuesday night. The kind of rain that makes you want to stay home with a cup of tea and forget the world exists. But Rachel Chen was still at the office at 9 in the evening, like she had been for the past 10 years. Being the CEO of a tech company meant there was always one more email, one more decision, one more problem to solve. She had given her driver the night off. He had a daughter's recital or something important like that. Rachel couldn't quite remember. She made a mental note to send a gift basket. That's what her assistant usually did when she forgot the personal details of people's lives. The parking garage was empty and quiet. Her heels clicked against the concrete as she walked to her car, a sleek silver luxury sedan that cost more than most people's houses. She pressed the key fob, heard the familiar beep, and slid into the leather seat. The meeting tomorrow was going to be brutal. 3 board members wanted to push her out. They thought she was too aggressive, too unwilling to compromise. She had built this company from nothing, and now they wanted to tell her how to run it. Rachel turned the key. Nothing happened. She tried again. The engine made a sad clicking sound and then silence. Perfect, just perfect. She tried a 3rd time, then a 4th. Her phone showed 1 bar of battery. Of course it did. She got out of the car and looked around the empty garage. The security guard had already done his rounds. Everyone else had gone home hours ago. She pulled out her phone and searched for the nearest towing service. Most were closed. Finally, she found one that was open 24 hours. The man who answered spoke with a warm voice that didn't match the late hour. "Yeah, I can come get you. Where are you at?" She gave him the address and stood next to her useless car, watching the rain through the garage entrance. Her jacket was Chanel, her shoes were Italian, and she was standing in a cold parking garage waiting for a tow truck like anyone else, whose car decided to die at the worst possible time. 20 minutes later, she saw the headlights. A beat-up tow truck pulled up and a man stepped out. He was tall, wearing a jacket that had seen better days, and he moved with the easy confidence of someone who knew exactly what he was doing. His name tag said Tony, and he had grease under his fingernails. "You're the luxury sedan?" he asked, walking past her to look at the car. "Yes, it won't start. I don't know what's wrong with it." Tony popped the hood and looked inside with a flashlight. He made some humming sounds, touched a few things, and then straightened up. "Your alternator's dead. Battery too, probably. This is going to need some work." Rachel nodded like she understood what an alternator was. "Can you fix it tonight?" He laughed. Not in a mean way, but like she had just said something genuinely funny. "Tonight, no way. I can tow it to my shop and we'll look at it tomorrow. Maybe the day after. I've got to order parts for these fancy cars." She felt her frustration rising. "I'll pay extra. I need my car. Lady, I don't care if you pay me in gold bars. Your alternator is dead. I can't fix what I don't have parts for." He was already hooking up her car to the tow truck. "Come on, I'll give you a ride." "You can't stay here all night." Rachel hesitated. She should call a car service. She should call her assistant, even though it was late. But her phone was dying and she was tired, so tired. She climbed into the passenger seat of the tow truck. The inside smelled like coffee and motor oil. There was a photo taped to the dashboard of a dog, some kind of mutt with one ear up and one ear down. The radio played old rock songs quietly. Tony drove carefully, checking his mirrors, taking his time with her expensive car attached to the back. "Long day?" he asked. "You could say that. I hear you. I've been working since 6 this morning. Guy came in with a vintage Mustang. Wanted me to rebuild the whole engine. Beautiful car, but man, finding parts for those old ones is like a treasure hunt." Rachel looked at him. He was talking about cars like other people talked about art or music. There was real passion there. When was the last time she felt passionate about her work instead of just exhausted by it? They pulled up to a small shop on the edge of town. The sign said Rivera Auto Repair in faded letters. Tony unhooked her car and gestured toward the office. "Come on inside while I do the paperwork. It's cold out here." The office was small and cluttered. There were car magazines on a worn couch, a coffee maker that looked like it was from the 90s, and a calendar on the wall with a picture of a classic car. Tony poured 2 cups of coffee without asking if she wanted one. "Fair warning, this coffee is terrible. I make it strong enough to wake the dead, but it tastes like motor oil." Rachel took a sip. He wasn't wrong. But it was warm and she was cold, so she kept drinking it. "So what do you do?" Tony asked, filling out forms. "Besides drive expensive cars that break down?" "I run a tech company." "Yeah? What kind of tech?" Software development. Business solutions mostly. It's boring stuff. He looked up from his paperwork. If it was boring, you wouldn't be at the office at 9 at night. That stopped her. When was the last time someone actually listened to what she said instead of just waiting for their turn to talk? I guess you're right. It used to be exciting. Now it's just complicated. Tony handed her the paperwork. Most things worth doing are complicated. But complicated doesn't have to mean miserable. She looked at the total on the invoice. It was surprisingly reasonable. She pulled out her credit card. You know what the funny thing is? Tony said, running her card. Rich people always think their problems are unique. But a dead alternator doesn't care if you're driving a luxury car or a 15-year-old Honda. It just dies. Same solution for everyone, Rachel laughed. Actually laughed. Are you always this philosophical about car repairs? Only on Tuesday nights when I'm too tired to keep my mouth shut. He handed her a receipt. Call me tomorrow afternoon. I'll let you know about the parts. How will I get home? I'll drive you. Where do you live? She told him the address and his eyebrows went up slightly. It was an expensive neighborhood, the kind with gates and security, but he didn't say anything, just grabbed his keys. The drive to her house took 20 minutes. They didn't talk much. The radio played softly and the rain had slowed to a drizzle. When they pulled up to her building, Tony whistled low. Nice place. Thanks. Rachel unbuckled her seatbelt, then paused. Thank you for tonight. For the ride and the terrible coffee. Anytime. That's what I do. She got out, then turned back. I'm Rachel, by the way. Tony. He smiled. Take care of yourself, Rachel. You look like you need about 12 hours of sleep. Is it that obvious? You've got that look. The one that says you forgot what rest feels like. He put the truck in gear. Get some sleep. Your car will still be broken tomorrow. Rachel watched him drive away, then went up to her apartment. It was huge and modern and perfectly decorated. It was also completely empty. No pets, no plants, no signs that anyone actually lived there. Just expensive furniture and a view of the city. She made herself tea, took off her wet shoes, and sat by the window. For the first time in months, maybe years, she thought about something other than work. She thought about a man in a beat-up tow truck who made terrible coffee and said exactly what he meant. Who looked at her like she was just a person, not a title or a bank account. Her phone buzzed with emails, 17 new ones since she left the office. She looked at them, then set the phone down. They could wait until morning. Tonight, she just wanted to sit in the quiet and remember what it felt like to laugh. Tony called the next afternoon, just like he promised. Rachel was in back-to-back meetings, but when she saw the unknown number, something made her step out to answer it. Hey, it's Tony from the auto shop. Your alternator came in faster than I thought. Got a good supplier who owed me a favor. I can have your car ready by tomorrow afternoon. That's great. Thank you. No problem. That's what I do. There was a pause. You sound stressed. More meetings? Rachel looked through the glass door at the conference room where 5 people were waiting for her. Something like that. Well, your car will be here when you need it. Try not to work yourself to death before then. He hung up before she could respond. Rachel stared at her phone for a moment, then went back to the meeting where everyone wanted to argue about things that suddenly seemed less important than they had an hour ago. The next day, Rachel told her driver she had a personal errand to run. She took a company car to Tony's shop. It looked different in the daylight. Smaller maybe, but cleaner than she expected. There were 3 cars in the lot, and she could hear music playing from inside the garage. Tony was under a car when she walked in. All she could see were his legs sticking out. When he rolled out on the creeper board, his face was smudged with grease. Rachel. Hey, your car's ready. He stood up, wiping his hands on a rag that probably made them dirtier. Let me get the keys. How much do I owe you? He told her a number that seemed too low. Are you sure? The parts alone must have cost more than that. I said what I said. I don't overcharge people just because they can afford it. Rachel pulled out her wallet. Let me at least tip you. You stayed late that night to help me. I don't take tips for doing my job. He handed her the keys. Your car should run fine now, but maybe get it checked regularly. These fancy cars need attention. She should have left then, should have thanked him and driven away. Instead, she heard herself say, "Can I buy you lunch?" As a thank you? Tony looked surprised. You don't have to do that. I know, but I want to. Unless you're too busy? He looked at the car he had been working on, then back at her. I could eat. There's a diner around the corner. Nothing fancy. Fancy sounds terrible right now. The diner was exactly what she expected. Red vinyl booths, a counter with spinning stools, and a menu that had pictures of the food. Tony ordered a burger and fries without looking at the menu. Rachel ordered a salad, then changed her mind and got a burger too. When's the last time you ate a real lunch? Tony asked, dumping ketchup on his fries. Define real lunch. Something that isn't eaten standing up or in a meeting or from a plastic container at your desk. Rachel thought about it. I honestly can't remember. That's sad. Food tastes better when you actually sit down and taste it. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. The diner was busy with the lunch crowd. Construction workers, office people on their break, a few students from the community college. Nobody stared at her. Nobody knew who she was. It felt strange and wonderful at the same time. So what's so complicated about your job? Tony asked, stealing one of her fries. You actually want to know? I asked, didn't I? So Rachel told him. About the board members who wanted control. About the investors who cared more about quarterly profits than long-term vision. About the employees who depended on her to make the right choices. About the pressure of being a woman in tech, always having to prove herself twice as hard as the men around her. Tony listened. Really listened. He didn't interrupt or try to fix things or tell her she was overreacting. When she finished, he took a long drink of his soda and said, Sounds like you forgot why you started the company in the first place. What do you mean? Well, you started it, right? Built it from nothing. You must have had a reason back then. Something that made you want to do this crazy thing. Rachel sat back. She had started the company because she saw a problem that needed solving, because she believed technology could make people's lives easier, not more complicated, because she wanted to build something that mattered. When had that gotten lost in all the meetings and power struggles? I wanted to help people, she said quietly. That sounds stupid now. Why does it sound stupid? Because nobody else cares about that anymore. They care about market share and profit margins. So, just because they forgot doesn't mean you have to. Tony finished his burger. I could make more money if I moved my shop to a fancier neighborhood. Charge double for the same work. But I like it here. I know my customers. They trust me. That matters more than money. Easy to say when you're not responsible for hundreds of employees. Fair point. He grinned. But you asked why I'm so calm. That's why. I remember what I'm doing and why it matters. They talked until Tony had to get back to work. Rachel found herself telling him things she had never told anyone. About growing up with parents who didn't understand her love of computers. About her first startup that failed spectacularly. About the loneliness of being at the top, where everyone wanted something from you but nobody just wanted to have lunch and talk. Over the next few weeks, Rachel found reasons to go back to that neighborhood. She told herself it was convenient. That the diner had good coffee. That she needed to check on her car. But really she wanted to see Tony. They fell into a pattern. She would stop by the shop around lunchtime. If he wasn't too busy, they would grab food at the diner. Sometimes they talked about serious things. Sometimes they just talked about nothing. He told her about the vintage Mustang he was restoring in his spare time. About his dad who had owned the shop before him and taught him everything about cars and nothing about business. About his dog, Rusty, who looked tough but was scared of thunderstorms. Rachel talked about things she never discussed at board meetings. Her love of old science fiction novels. Her terrible cooking skills. The fact that she sometimes went entire weekends without talking to another person unless it was work-related. That's depressing, Tony said one afternoon. They were sitting in his office because it was raining again. He had made his terrible coffee, which Rachel had developed a strange fondness for. It's just how my life is. It doesn't have to be. Easy for you to say. Is it? Tony leaned back in his chair. I work 6 days a week. I'm up at 5 every morning. I haven't taken a real vacation in 3 years. But I make time for things that matter. For people who matter. Like who? Like you. He said it simply, like he was commenting on the weather. Rachel felt her heart skip. Tony, I'm not asking for anything. I just think you should know that someone looks forward to seeing you. Not CEO you, just you. The woman who laughs at my bad jokes and eats her burger too fast and falls asleep on my couch while I'm doing paperwork. I did that once. Twice, but who's counting? Rachel smiled despite herself. My life is complicated. Everything's complicated. Doesn't mean it can't also be good. Her phone buzzed, then buzzed again, and again. She pulled it out and saw 15 messages from her assistant. There was a crisis at the office. A deal was falling through. They needed her immediately. I have to go, she said, standing up. I figured. Tony walked her to the door. Hey, Rachel. Whatever's happening at work, you'll figure it out. You're smart enough to build a company. You're smart enough to save it. She wanted to hug him, wanted to stay in this small office with bad coffee and car magazines instead of going back to her world of glass towers and cold conference rooms. Instead, she said, thank you, and left. In the car, Rachel thought about what Tony had said, about remembering why things mattered, about making time for people who mattered. Her phone kept buzzing with urgent messages, but for the first time in years, she felt something shift inside her. The job was important. The company was important. But maybe, just maybe, they weren't the only important things. She handled the crisis at the office. Fixed the deal, calmed the investors, reminded everyone why they had trusted her in the first place. But that night, instead of working until midnight, she left at 7. She drove past her apartment and went back to the diner. Tony was there sitting at the counter with a coffee. He looked surprised to see her. Thought you'd be working late, he said. I usually do. But someone told me I should make time for things that matter. Smart guy. He has his moments. She sat down next to him. Buy me dinner? You're the millionaire CEO. You buy me dinner. Fine, but you're leaving the tip. They ordered burgers and talked until the diner closed. And when Rachel finally went home that night, her apartment didn't feel quite so empty anymore. 3 months into whatever this was with Tony, Rachel knew she had to make a decision. They were more than friends. Everyone could see it. Her assistant had stopped asking about her lunch schedule. Tony's customers at the shop had started teasing him about the fancy lady who kept coming around. But Rachel had kept Tony separate from her real life. Her work life. The life where she wore designer suits and made million-dollar decisions and attended charity galas with people who measured success in stock portfolios. The invitation had been sitting on her desk for weeks. The annual Tech Innovation Gala. She was receiving an award for Business Leader of the Year. It was a big deal. The kind of event where deals were made and alliances were formed and everyone wore their most expensive everything. She had to bring someone. Going alone would spark rumors. Going with a date would spark different rumors. Either way, people would talk. Rachel looked at the invitation, then at her phone. Before she could overthink it, she called Tony. Hey, what's up? Do you own a suit? I own a suit. Wore it to my cousin's wedding last year. Why? I have this event. A work thing, a gala. I'm getting an award and I need a date and I want you to come with me. There was a long pause. You sure about that? No, but I want you there anyway. Another pause. When is it? Saturday night. It's formal. Really formal. And there will be a lot of people from my world. And they're going to judge you. And it's going to be uncomfortable and I should probably just go alone, but I don't want to. Rachel, breathe. She realized she had said all of that in one breath. Sorry, don't be sorry. I'll go, but you owe me. I hate wearing ties. Saturday came too fast. Rachel spent the day at a salon, getting her hair and makeup done. She wore a dark blue gown that cost more than Tony's monthly rent. Her jewelry was borrowed from a designer. She looked perfect. She felt terrified. The car service picked up Tony first. When he got in, Rachel's breath caught. The suit fit him well. He had shaved and combed his hair. He looked handsome and uncomfortable in equal measure. You clean up nice, she said. You look beautiful, but you always look beautiful. He tugged at his tie. How long is this thing? A few hours. Maybe 4. 4 hours of small talk with rich people. Great. We can leave early if it's awful. We're staying until you get your award. I didn't put on this tie for nothing. The gala was held at a fancy hotel downtown. The ballroom was decorated with flowers that probably cost more than a car. Waitstaff in white uniforms carried trays of champagne and appetizers that were more art than food. Everyone looked expensive and important. Rachel took Tony's arm as they walked in. She felt him tense slightly. You okay? I'm fine. Just never been anywhere like this before. They found their table. Rachel had made sure to request seats with some of her friendlier colleagues. But as they sat down, she saw the looks. The quick up and down assessments. the barely concealed surprise. One woman actually whispered to her neighbor while staring at Tony. Dinner was painful. The people at their table tried to make conversation, but it was forced. They asked Tony what he did, and when he said he owned an auto shop, the interest died in their eyes. They turned back to Rachel, talking about market trends and merger opportunities and expansion plans. Tony ate quietly, responding when spoken to, but mostly just observing. Rachel could see him pulling back, putting up walls. She tried to include him in conversations, but her colleagues kept redirecting to business topics he had no context for. Then things got worse. During the cocktail hour before the awards, Rachel's ex-boyfriend approached. David was a venture capitalist who had dated Rachel 3 years ago. He had wanted her to be more flexible in her business decisions, meaning he wanted control. She had ended things, and he had never quite forgiven her. "Rachel, you look stunning as always." David's eyes slid to Tony. "And who's this?" "This is Tony." "Tony, this is David Chen. We used to date." "Used to" being the key phrase, David said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "So Tony, what do you do?" "I'm a mechanic. I own a repair shop." "How interesting. Manual labor must be so satisfying." The condescension dripped from every word. "I admire people who work with their hands. So authentic." Tony's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice level. "Someone's got to fix the cars people like you drive." "Indeed." David turned to Rachel. "Could I speak with you privately for a moment?" "Business matter." Rachel didn't want to leave Tony, but David was insistent. She excused herself and they walked to a quiet corner. "Are you having some kind of crisis?" David asked the moment they were alone. "Excuse me." "The mechanic, Rachel. Really? Is this some kind of rebellion?" "Proving a point? I'm dating someone I care about. That's all." "You're dating someone who doesn't belong in this world. Do you know what people are saying? That you're losing your edge. That you're making poor decisions. This relationship is affecting your reputation. My reputation is based on my work, not who I date. You're naive if you believe that. Image matters. Perception matters. You're a CEO, not some regular person who can date whoever they want without consequences." Rachel felt her anger rising. "I can date whoever I want. Can you? What about the board? What about investors? They're already questioning your judgment. This doesn't help." Before Rachel could respond, David walked away. She stood there, shaking with anger and something else. Fear, maybe, because part of what he said was true. People were talking. She had heard the whispers, seen the looks. She found Tony standing by a window looking out at the city. "Hey, sorry about that." "Don't be. I expected it. David's an idiot." "Maybe. But he's not wrong, is he?" Rachel didn't answer right away. "What do you mean?" Tony turned to face her. "I don't fit here, Rachel. We both know it. These people look at me like I'm some kind of curiosity, the poor mechanic who somehow got a date with the CEO. It's like I'm your charity case. That's not fair, isn't it? Look around. Everyone here is like you. Successful, wealthy, educated. They speak the same language. They understand your world. I'm just the guy who fixes cars. You're more than that to me. Am I? Or am I just different enough to be interesting? Your walk on the wild side before you settle down with someone appropriate? Tony, that's not what this is." "Then what is it?" "Because from where I'm standing, I'm the guy you hide from your real life. You come to my shop. We eat at the diner. But this is your real world. And I don't belong in it." Rachel felt tears threatening. "I don't care what these people think. Maybe you should. You worked hard to build this life. I won't be the reason you lose it." Before she could respond, they announced the award ceremony. Rachel had to go on stage. She accepted her award, gave a speech she barely remembered afterward, and smiled for photos while her heart was breaking. When she got back to the table, Tony stood up. "Congratulations. You deserve that award. Where are you going?" "Home. I called a car. You should stay. Network, or whatever you call it." "Tony, please don't leave." He looked at her and his eyes were sad. "I'm not embarrassed about who I am or what I do, Rachel. But I won't be your secret or your rebellion. You need to figure out what you really want. If this is real, we face your world together and you stop hiding me. If it's not, it's better we both know now." He left. Rachel watched him go, surrounded by people congratulating her on her award. She had never felt more alone. The rest of the night was a blur. She made conversation, shook hands, posed for more photos, but her mind was elsewhere. By the time she got home, it was past midnight. She took off the expensive dress, the borrowed jewelry, the uncomfortable shoes. She looked at herself in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back. She had spent months with Tony being herself. The version of Rachel who laughed too loud and ate burgers with both hands and fell asleep on worn couches. The version who didn't have to perform or prove or perfect every moment. And tonight, she had brought him into her other world and watched it tear them apart. Her phone buzzed. A text from her assistant with a link to a gossip blog. There was already a photo of her and Tony at the gala, with a caption speculating about her mysterious date and whether she was slumming it with someone outside her social circle. Rachel threw her phone across the room. Then she sat on her bed in her empty apartment and cried, because Tony was right. She had been hiding him. She had been treating their relationship like a secret escape instead of something real. She had let him face her world alone while she worried about what everyone else thought. And now she had to decide what mattered more: the approval of people who only valued her for her success and status, or the love of a man who valued her for who she really was. The answer should have been easy. But as Rachel looked around her expensive apartment and her expensive neighborhood with her expensive life, she realized that choosing love meant risking everything she had built. And she didn't know if she was brave enough to do that. Rachel didn't hear from Tony for 3 days. She drove past his shop twice but didn't stop. What would she say? That she was sorry? That he was right? That she was a coward who cared too much about what other people thought? On Thursday morning, her assistant knocked on her office door with an unusually serious expression. "The board wants to see you. Conference room A now." Rachel's stomach dropped. Emergency board meetings were never good news. She grabbed her tablet and headed down the hall, trying to prepare herself for whatever was coming. 6 board members sat around the table. Their faces told her everything she needed to know before anyone spoke. Richard, the oldest member and biggest investor, cleared his throat. "Rachel, we need to discuss some concerns about your recent behavior and how it's affecting the company." "What concerns?" "Your relationship with this mechanic. It's causing problems. Investors are questioning your judgment. Clients are wondering if you're distracted. The photos from the gala have been circulating and frankly, it looks bad." Rachel felt her face flush. "My personal life is personal. Not when you're the face of this company. Not when your decisions affect stock prices and investor confidence." Richard slid a folder across the table. "We've received calls from 3 major investors. They're threatening to pull their funding unless you can demonstrate better judgment." "Better judgment? I'm dating someone. That's not a business decision." Another board member, Catherine, spoke up. Her voice was softer but no less serious. "Rachel, we're not saying you can't date, but you need to understand the optics. You're a young female CEO in tech. People are already looking for reasons to doubt you. Dating someone so far outside our industry, someone without education or social standing, it makes you look unstable. He owns his own business. He's hardworking and honest and kind." "I'm sure he's lovely," Catherine said in a tone that suggested she thought the opposite. "But perception matters." "You know this," Richard leaned forward. "We're giving you a choice, Rachel. End this relationship and refocus on the company, or we'll be forced to call for a vote of no confidence. We have the numbers to remove you as CEO." The words hit like a physical blow. "You're threatening to fire me over who I date? We're protecting the company. That's our job. We brought you in because you were brilliant and driven. But lately you've been distracted. Missing meetings, leaving early, and now this public relationship that's damaging our reputation. We need the old Rachel back. The one who put this company first." Rachel looked around the table. These were people she had worked with for years. People she thought respected her. And they were sitting here telling her that her happiness was worth less than their stock portfolio. "I need time to think," she said. "You have until Monday. Make your decision." Richard stood up and the others followed. The meeting was over. Rachel sat alone in the conference room for a long time. Her phone buzzed with messages, but she ignored them. Finally, she drove to the one place that felt safe, the diner. It was mid-afternoon, so the lunch rush was over. She ordered coffee and sat in the booth she and Tony usually shared. The waitress, Linda, brought her usual order without asking. A burger and fries, no lettuce, extra pickles. Haven't seen you and Tony together this week, Linda said. Everything okay? I don't know. Linda patted her shoulder. Men are idiots, honey. But that one's a good one. Don't let him go without a fight. Rachel ate slowly, thinking. She had built her company from nothing. Worked 18-hour days for years. Sacrificed relationships, friendships, and any semblance of a normal life. The company was her achievement, her legacy. Losing it would mean losing everything she had worked for. But what had all that work given her? A big empty apartment. A calendar full of obligations. A life where she was surrounded by people but completely alone. Until Tony. He had given her something she hadn't even known she was missing. Someone who saw her. Really saw her. Not her bank account or her title or her potential usefulness. Just her. Her phone rang. It was Tony. Her heart jumped as she answered. Hey, he said. His voice sounded tired. Hey, I need to talk to you. Can you come by the shop? I'm actually at the diner. Can you meet me here? Give me 10 minutes. Rachel ordered more coffee and waited. When Tony walked in, he looked like he hadn't slept much either. He slid into the booth across from her and they sat in awkward silence for a moment. I'm sorry about the gala, Rachel said. You were right. I was hiding you. I was ashamed and I shouldn't have been. I'm sorry too. I knew what your world was like. I should have been stronger. You were strong. You called me out on my garbage. I needed that. Tony took a deep breath. Rachel, something happened. A developer approached me about buying my shop. Actually buying the whole block. They want to put up condos or something. They're offering serious money. More money than I'd make in 10 years. Rachel felt her chest tighten. What are you going to do? I don't know. Part of me wants to tell them to get lost. That shop was my dad's, it's my life. But the other part thinks maybe it's a sign. Maybe I should take the money, start over somewhere else, somewhere that makes more sense for us. You'd sell your shop for me? I'd do a lot of things for you. That's the problem. He ran his hand through his hair. I feel like I'm holding you back. Like you're choosing between your success and me. And that's not fair to either of us. Rachel reached across the table and took his hand. The board called a meeting today. They gave me an ultimatum. End our relationship or they'll vote me out as CEO. Tony pulled his hand back like he'd been burned. What? They said you're a distraction. That dating you makes me look unstable. That investors are threatening to pull funding because of us. Then it's decided. Tony's face went hard. You built that company. You can't lose it because of me. Tony, no, Rachel. I mean it. I won't be the reason you lose everything you worked for. We both knew this was complicated. Maybe we were kidding ourselves thinking it could work. So that's it? You're just giving up? I'm being realistic. You deserve someone who fits your life. Someone who can go to your fancy events without embarrassing you. Someone who went to the right schools and knows the right people. That's not me. Rachel felt anger bubbling up. You know what? You're being a coward. You're doing exactly what everyone expects. Poor mechanic knows his place. Steps aside for the rich girl to keep her perfect life. That's garbage, Tony, and you know it. What do you want from me? You want me to fight for you? Fine, I'm fighting. I'm telling you to keep your company. Build your empire. Be successful. That's what you're meant to do. What if I don't want the company without you? Then you're not thinking clearly. They stared at each other across the table. The diner suddenly felt too small, too quiet. Linda was pretending not to watch while obviously watching everything. I need to go, Tony said, standing up. I've got a customer coming in. A vintage Mustang. Remember that one I told you about? Tony, we need to talk about this. We just did. He pulled out his wallet to pay for his coffee, but Rachel stopped him. I've got it. He nodded and walked out. Rachel watched through the window as he crossed the street to his shop, his shoulders hunched against the wind. She sat there for another hour, drinking cold coffee and thinking. By the time she left, she had made a decision. Maybe it was the right one. Maybe it was the biggest mistake of her life. But she was done letting other people tell her what to do. That night, Rachel drafted 2 letters. One was her response to the board. The other was something she never thought she'd write. Both sat on her desk as she tried to sleep, knowing that tomorrow everything would change. Friday morning came too early. Rachel dressed carefully in her best suit. Armor for what was coming. She arrived at the office before anyone else and put the first letter on Richard's desk. Then she called an emergency board meeting for that afternoon. At 2 o'clock, she walked into that conference room one more time. The board members looked surprised to see her so confident. They expected her to come in defeated, ready to apologize and promise to do better. "I received your ultimatum," Rachel said without sitting down, "and I've made my decision." Richard nodded approvingly. "We're glad you've come to your senses. I'm not ending my relationship with Tony. In fact, I'm going to fight for it. And I'm going to fight for this company too, but not the way you want me to." The room went silent. "If you vote me out, I'll start over. I built this company once. I can do it again. And I'll take my reputation, my contacts, and my vision with me. You'll be left with a company that runs on my ideas and my strategy, but without me to execute them. Good luck with that." "Rachel, you're being emotional," Catherine said. "No, I'm being honest. For the first time in a long time, you want me to choose between my personal life and my professional life. But the truth is, I'm better at my job when I'm happy. These past few months with Tony, I've been more creative, more focused, more effective than I've been in years, because I finally remembered what I'm working for. Not just profit, not just success, but building something meaningful with people I care about." She looked around the table. "So here's my counteroffer. You back off my personal life completely. In return, I'll deliver the best quarter we've ever had. I've already got deals in the pipeline that will double our revenue, but I'm doing it my way, with my choices and my relationships intact." Richard's face was red. "You can't threaten us." "I'm not threatening. I'm negotiating. Something I learned from you, actually." Rachel picked up her bag. "You have until Monday to decide. Either you trust me to run this company and live my life, or you don't. If you don't, I walk. Your choice." She left before they could respond. Her hands were shaking, but she felt lighter than she had in days. She had called their bluff. Now she had to hope they didn't call hers. Rachel drove straight to Tony's shop. He was in the back working on that Mustang. When he saw her, he wiped his hands and walked over, his face guarded. "I told the board no," she said. "I told them I won't end our relationship. And if they don't like it, I'll walk away from the company." Tony's eyes widened. "Rachel, you can't." "I can, I did. I'm done letting other people decide what my life should look like." She stepped closer to him. "I love you, Tony. I should have said it weeks ago. I love that you make terrible coffee and tell me the truth even when I don't want to hear it. I love that you see me as a person, not a title. And I'm not losing that because some investors think you're not good enough for me." Tony pulled her close and she could feel his heart beating fast. "I love you too. But Rachel, your company, I'll figure it out." "We'll figure it out together. That's what partners do, right?" "You're crazy, probably, but I'm done playing it safe." They stood there in the garage, surrounded by car parts and the smell of motor oil, and Rachel had never felt more certain of anything in her life. She didn't know what Monday would bring. She didn't know if she'd still have her company or if she'd be starting over from scratch. But for the first time in years, she knew what really mattered. And she was ready to fight for it. The weekend felt like an eternity. Rachel spent Saturday and Sunday preparing for every possible outcome. If the board voted her out, she needed a plan. She called old colleagues, reached out to potential investors who shared her values, and started sketching out what a new company might look like. Tony was with her through all of it. They worked from her apartment, spreading papers across her dining table that had never been used for actual dining. He didn't understand all the business talk, but he listened. He asked questions. He reminded her to eat and sleep and breathe. "What if they fire you?" he asked Sunday night. They were on her couch, her feet in his lap, both of them exhausted. "Then I start over. It'll be hard, but I've done hard before." "You'd really walk away from everything you built?" Rachel looked at him. "I'm not walking away from it. I'm walking toward something better. There's a difference. What about the developer wanting to buy my shop? Maybe I should take that deal. Give us some security while you rebuild. Is that what you want?" Tony was quiet for a moment. "No, that shop is all I have of my dad. Every tool, every corner of that place has a memory. But I'd sell it if it helped you." "Then don't. We'll figure out another way." She squeezed his hand. "Besides, I've got some ideas about your shop." "What kind of ideas?" "The kind that involve you not selling, but also not working 18-hour days forever. But we can talk about that later." After Monday morning arrived with gray skies and rain. Rachel dressed in her power suit, the dark gray one that meant business. Tony wore his cleanest work shirt and jeans. They drove separately to the office. Rachel needed to face this on her own, but knowing he was nearby gave her strength. The board meeting was scheduled for 10. Rachel arrived at 9, ready for anything. Her assistant looked worried. The board's already here. They want to see you early. Rachel's heart pounded, but she kept her face neutral. Let's get this over with. She walked into the conference room expecting a fight. Instead, she found Richard standing by the window, looking older than she remembered. The other board members sat silently around the table. Rachel, sit down, Richard said. I'll stand, thanks. He sighed. Fair enough. We've made a decision. But first I need to say something. I've known you since you started this company. I was your first investor. I believed in you when nobody else would. Do you remember? Of course I remember. I invested because you were brilliant and fearless. You had a vision, and you wouldn't compromise it for anyone. Somewhere along the way I forgot that. We all did. We started treating you like an employee instead of a founder, like someone we could control instead of someone we needed to trust. Rachel didn't know what to say. Richard rarely admitted he was wrong about anything. Your ultimatum made us realize something, Catherine added. We've been so focused on protecting the company that we forgot what made it special in the first place. You, your vision, your passion. These past few months, your work has actually been better. The deals you've brought in, the innovation you've pushed for, it's all been top-notch. We were wrong to connect your personal happiness with your professional performance. So what are you saying? Rachel asked. Richard turned to face her. We're saying we trust you. Date whoever you want. Live your life. We'll deal with any investor who has a problem with it. We can't afford to lose you over something this stupid. Rachel felt her knees go weak. You're serious? Completely. With one condition. You keep delivering the kind of results you've been delivering, which frankly shouldn't be hard since you've been doing exactly that. And the investors who threatened to pull out? 2 of them backed down when we explained the situation. The third one, well, we decided we don't need his money or his opinions. We found better investors who care more about innovation than gossip. Rachel sat down, suddenly dizzy. I can't believe this. Believe it, Richard said. Now get out of here. I'm sure you have someone waiting to hear how this went. Rachel practically ran from the building. She called Tony from the parking lot. They said yes. I can stay. We can be together. They actually apologized. That's amazing, see? I told you it would work out. Where are you? At the shop. Come over. Bring lunch. We'll celebrate. Rachel stopped at the diner and got their usual order. When she arrived at the shop, Tony was finishing up with a customer. He saw her and grinned, and her heart did that thing it always did when he smiled at her. They ate in his office, which still had terrible coffee and was still cluttered with car magazines. But now it felt like home. So what are these ideas you have about my shop? Tony asked, stealing one of her fries. I've been thinking. You're amazing at what you do, but you're one person. What if we expanded? Not into some corporate chain, but into something meaningful. A training program. Teach young people about auto repair. Give them skills they can use. Tony put down his burger. I've thought about that, but I can't afford to hire teachers or buy more equipment. What if you had an investor, someone who believed in the social impact, not just the profit? Rachel, I can't take your money. Not my money. An actual investment. We'd be partners. You'd still run the place, make all the decisions about the work. But I'd help with the business side. Marketing, expansion, finding funding. We could start small. Maybe 1 or 2 students. See how it goes. You really want to invest in a mechanic shop? I want to invest in you. In something that matters. Isn't that what you told me to do? Remember why things matter? Tony laughed. I did say that, didn't I? Over the next few months, they made it work. Rachel stayed as CEO, but she restructured her schedule. She promoted her chief operating officer to handle day-to-day operations, which freed up her time for strategy and vision. The board was happy. The company thrived, and Rachel finally learned to leave the office at a reasonable hour. Tony started the training program with 2 students from the community college. Rachel helped him apply for grants and set up partnerships with local schools. The shop became more than just a business. It became a place where kids who couldn't afford college could learn a valuable trade. They kept going to the diner. Kept their Tuesday lunch tradition. Rachel's world and Tony's world slowly merged into something new. Something better. 6 months after the board meeting, Rachel had dinner with her parents. They had flown in from California, curious about the man their daughter was dating. Rachel had warned Tony that her parents were formal and judgmental and would probably hate him. She was wrong. Her father, a retired engineer, spent 2 hours talking to Tony about classic car restoration. Her mother, who Rachel had always found cold and distant, laughed at Tony's stories about difficult customers. Over dessert, her father said something Rachel had never heard before. "You seem happy, really happy. I don't think we've ever seen you like this." Rachel looked at Tony, who was listening to her mother talk about her garden. "I am happy. For the first time in a long time. Then we're happy too. That's all we ever wanted for you." That night, as Tony drove her home, Rachel thought about how much had changed. A year ago, she had been alone in her office at 9 at night, building an empire but losing herself. Now she had someone who made her laugh, someone who challenged her, someone who saw past the CEO to the person underneath. "What are you thinking about?" Tony asked. "How lucky I am." "You're lucky? I'm the one dating a genius millionaire who thinks my terrible coffee is charming." "It is charming. In a how is this even legal to serve kind of way." They pulled up to her building. Tony walked her to the door like he always did. They had fallen into routines, small, comfortable habits that felt like building a life together. "Hey, Rachel," Tony said, his hand in his pocket like he was nervous about something. "Yeah? I've been thinking about what you said. About being partners, about building something together." "Okay." He pulled out a small box. Not fancy, just a simple black box that could have held anything. "I want to build everything with you. Not just the training program or your company or my shop, everything. Your life and my life and whatever that looks like together." Rachel's breath caught. "Tony, I know we haven't been together that long. I know we're still figuring things out. But I've never been more sure of anything. I love you. I love your terrible jokes and your work obsession and the way you fall asleep during movies. I love how you made me believe that two different worlds can fit together if the people care enough." He opened the box. Inside was a ring. Simple, elegant, perfect. "So what do you say? Want to keep figuring it out together? Officially?" Rachel felt tears streaming down her face. Yes, absolutely yes." He slipped the ring on her finger, and they stood there in the rain, kissing like teenagers while the doorman pretended not to watch. "This ring probably cost less than your shoes," Tony said, laughing. "It's the best thing anyone's ever given me." They got married 6 months later. Not at a fancy hotel with 500 guests and a celebrity wedding planner. At the diner. Linda helped with the decorations, which were simple and perfect. Mechanics sat next to tech executives. Tony's family mixed with Rachel's colleagues. Rachel wore a dress she actually liked instead of what was expected. Tony wore his suit and complained about the tie, but he smiled the whole day. Richard gave a toast. "I've known Rachel for years, and I've never seen her happier. Tony, you're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid to marry someone this stubborn. Either way, welcome to the family." Rachel's vows were short. "You saw me when I forgot how to see myself. You loved me when I was too busy to love myself. You made me remember that success isn't just about what you build, it's about who you build it with. I choose you. Every day for the rest of my life, I choose you." Tony's vows made everyone cry, even the mechanics who claimed they didn't do emotions. "My dad used to say that the best repairs are the ones you can't see, where you fix what's broken and make it stronger than before. Rachel, you fixed something in me I didn't know was broken. You made me believe I was enough exactly as I am. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you feel the same way." They danced to old rock songs in the diner while rain pattered against the windows. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't perfect. It was real. The training program at Tony's shop expanded to 4 locations over the next 2 years. Hundreds of young people learned valuable skills. Many of them went on to open their own shops or get good jobs with benefits and security. Tony still got his hands dirty every day, but now he was teaching others to do the same.